Hey there, this is Natalie, and it's time for some more interesting stories from the depths of Reddit. Please gently caress the subscribe button for more Reddit videos to relax to, with, I promise you, no AI voices ever. Now here is one of those legendary Reddit stories, and this one is entitled Crazy Beauty Queen Stalker. It was originally posted in r/Let's Not Meet by user Throwaway Glitterbomb. And while the original post was from 2021, there was an update in August 2024, and so we're going to be looking at everything today. In fact, the user begins. This is a long story as it's been over 5 years in the making. I've actually posted this story before, but there are some really good internet sleuths here on Reddit, and they were able to figure out ex-beauty queen's identity, and mine too. I don't really care if I give up my identity, but didn't want it to be on my actual account, so I deleted it a while back. The catalyst for me to repost it today on a throwaway is that it's cathartic. Last week, yet another court date for ex-beauty queen Stalker came and went. We've been expecting things to proceed, with her entering a plea of guilty or not guilty, but no such luck. All we got was another vague reason as to why she's not ready, and a new court date issued, months from now. There have been many court dates since she's been arrested. It's been over 18 months since she's been arrested for her continuing stalking and harassment, and she still wants to drag things on, to seemingly try and stay relevant in our lives. As an aside, the amount of court resources and taxpayers' money that's wasted is actually really astounding. Anyway, on to the story. To recap, my husband dated a beauty queen title holder of a well-known pageant before me. They broke up long before we met. She was a statuesque blonde, very tall, a knockout in her day, in my opinion. This is somewhat important to the story, I guess. But while she was a dazzling pageant winner on the outside, on the inside, oh boy. She could be charming and beautiful if she needed you, but mostly she treated people around her terribly, including my husband, and he eventually broke it off with her. But she never went away. She would continue to call and email repeatedly, even after my husband and I met. If anything, her calls increased. She would call over and over again, day and night, even after my husband, then boyfriend, blocked her. She would ask for money and threaten to go to the police, claiming he abused her if he didn't give it to her. He obviously did not give her any money. This made her very upset. The threats increased and became more malicious, but when that didn't work, she would switch tactics and try and sweetly ask him for help with certain projects she was trying to get off the ground, or more accurately, have him do all the work for her and she take the credit, with the promise that if he just did this one last thing for her, she would go away. He did not reply, so she would go back to being malicious. Any tactic for attention, or for what she really wanted, money. My husband was terrified, because of course, while he never did anything to her, it would be her word over his, and he was terrified of ruining his reputation and career. We unfortunately ended up at an event she also attended. She'd been waiting for us to arrive and had placed herself near the entrance of the event. As we walked in, she stood across the room, looking me up and down, laughing and whispering into the ear of her date, making a point to try and make me uncomfortable. But that was okay. She was easily ignored, until she ambushed me as I came out of the bathroom. She'd clearly been waiting for a moment when I was alone. She towered over me. She is very tall. I had no intention of having it out with her, and as I hurriedly walked to find my husband, but she kept pace beside me, hunched over so she was at my eye level. I'm 5'5". Her head turned towards me. She was like a caricature of herself as she ambled beside me, smiling maniacally. "Where is your man?" she hissed in her heavy accent. Her eyes were black. She looked like out of a Tim Burton movie, hunched over with that crazy demonic smile. "Watch your back, pug," she added, grinning. She liked to call me names like Pug because I own pugs, and I guess she thought this was an insult. What I didn't know then was, while I was in the bathroom, she'd walked over to my husband and had thrown her arm around him, while he was in mid-conversation with someone and introduced herself to the man he was talking to as if she and my husband were together. My husband unwrapped himself from her clutches and told her to beat it. She then beelined and waited for me to come out of the washroom. We stopped going to the parties. The last time we ran into her was at a funeral for a mutual friend. She followed me around at the wake. As my husband, boyfriend at the time, was talking to the man's widow, I was talking to a friend and his wife. She walked right up and stood with us, joining us mid-conversation as if she was part of the group. It was unnerving, but also just bizarre. It was a funeral and I did not want a scene. I silently picked my wine glass off the bar and walked away, leaving her with the couple I'd been speaking to, and her staring at me with a smirk on her face. All in all, annoying but manageable. However, the emails, calls never stopped. She would call my husband over and over, day and night, even though he had long blocked her number. She would drive by. I found my car keyed one night after I left it outside, but obviously I couldn't prove it's her. But enough was enough. My husband had a lawyer send a cease and desist. After the first, she called him from a private number. He answered and she said, "Hi, it's me," in a sing-song voice like they were the best of friends, and he hadn't just sent her a lawyer's letter ordering her to stay away from him and his family. He said nothing and hung up. Another cease and desist was sent. Then a third. Nothing would make her go away. She did not actually think my husband was capable of not wanting to be with her because, her beauty. Eventually, though, she got pissed that he was not giving in. So she decided to take this rage to the internet. I knew that she was absolutely checking out my social media, but I don't really use it that much, so I didn't care. However, she created a fake Twitter account and tweeted, "Husband's name is a fraud," and tagged his colleagues, friends, investors, family members, every single person she could think of to try and ruin his reputation and career. On New Year's Eve, she posted on my Instagram account at exactly 12:01 a.m, "Happy New Year's, Scrud." Social media settings were all put to private. We went to the police, armed with the emails threatening to give her money or she would go to the police. She was charged with 2 counts of harassment and a restraining order was put into place. To our shock, the next day after her arrest, our phones were buzzing. The story had made front page news. Clearly a slow news day. Her day in court came right before COVID. We arrived to the courthouse and sat down. She walked in. We were shocked by her appearance. Actually, shocked is an understatement. She was unrecognisable from her former self. Gone was the statuesque, dazzling blonde. She had apparently shaved her head and was wearing a short, ratty brown wig. She'd gained about 80 pounds, give or take, and was now sort of hunched. With her height and new girth, she looked like a linebacker. To add to her new look, she wore a bulky brown men's overcoat and a scarf tied over her wig, like a babushka. My immediate thought was, her outside now matches her inside. But it was her eyes that I noticed the most. About a year earlier, we'd shown a photo of her to our kids so that if she ever approached them, they knew to run. At the time, my son, who was young, commented that she had mean eyes. From the mouths of babes. Maybe it was that she'd changed so much physically overall, but her dark eyes had narrowed into deep black slits. As she scanned the courtroom and saw us in court, she would turn around every so often to look back at us and glare. She would then whisper in her lawyer's ear and laugh as if she was having a grand time. She had a pair of big, round, cheap sunglasses that she would put on and take off intermittently. When she addressed the judge, she put them on and he asked her to remove them. We thought she was putting on a brave face and treating it all like a joke. We were about to find out that getting arrested wouldn't slow her down. The restraining order didn't seem to faze her at all. If anything, it angered her more. From then on, every day, night and day, she would post from multiple fake social media accounts, posting photos of myself, of my husband. She would put up my husband's photo with the caption, P-word, or other terrible names that included racist and transphobic comments and captions. To give you a slight idea, she posted altered pictures of my husband, photoshopped to look like he was wearing heavy makeup and referring to him as a pre-op transgender. She posted altered and unflattering photos of myself. She called me old, ugly. Those are the G-rated ones. Listen, I'm no beauty queen myself. The name-calling, while obsessive and gross, wasn't what bothered me most. Although, I'm not gonna lie, seeing hundreds of photos of myself on her fake Twitter account, calling me ugly and obsessively pointing out every single perceived flaw, did succeed in getting me down at times. Why did I keep looking? Because it was like getting a glimpse into her unravelling/unravelled mind, just in case it was a clue of what she was capable or thinking of doing next, because it wasn't her insulting posts that fazed me. What bothered me most were the sinister captions. Keep an eye on your kids because I be watching. Or, why don't you plant some flowers in your front yard? Or, be good to your kids because you never know what could happen. How was your Uber Eats order? She would post pictures of me with an arrow directed to my head, which I perceived to be a gun to my head. She posted pictures of my husband's workplace, which she was not allowed to be within 2 blocks of, according to the restraining order, but the police said this could just be a picture she took from the internet. Sigh. She posted Agatha Christie quotes like, "Every killer is usually someone you know well," or "Your end is near." Her Twitter profile banner picture was taken from a movie poster and said, "Stalker," like she was in on the joke. We called the police again, but they said there wasn't anything they could do since she didn't explicitly tag us. I took screenshots of everything. Many of her posts were nonsensical, but most were photos posted of us on this fake account, all altered with derogatory or ominous captions, but we couldn't get her shut down. I became anxious any time my kids were outside shooting hoops in the driveway. My elderly mother wouldn't take the baby out in the stroller. She was too scared. It affected all of our lives. Life became dramatic. Ex-beauty queen would taunt us with, "Catch me if you can." She posted close-ups of her dog's genitals or a piece of her dog's poop with my name beside it, the implication obvious. It bothered me now that she had a dog, since I didn't think someone like her was capable of caring for anything living. Then the calls started back up, this time to our home line. Yes, we still have a home phone, lol. Bish, and then hung up. Karma will get you, and then weird chant-like calls, as if she were reciting a spell. Sure enough, she posted photos of a pentagram and candles as some sort of altar, and the caption, "Ring, ring." Finally, the police asked us to come in and give video statements. We gave them a drive containing thousands of screenshots of posts that she'd made. They arrested her again and charged her with 2 more counts of criminal harassment. My husband was angry at this point, but as Mama Bear, I just wanted to get this over with. She mentioned the kids frequently and ominously many times in her online rants, also calling them rude names, which I won't repeat here, because these are the things that upset me most. The judge also issued a social media ban for her. By the time she was rearrested for the second time, her fake Twitter account, which was literally mostly insults or references to my family, had 16,000 tweets in a 3-month period. She has no followers, so they were just to herself. The prawn sites I'd been continuously being tagged on stopped. Things quieted down tremendously, but I still got follower requests that I believe are her. But at this point, we were all on edge, I kid you not. I felt weird walking into my kitchen at night to make a sandwich, feeling creeped out that she was outside watching. I put nothing past her, as nothing is more dangerous than a desperate woman who has nothing to lose. Which, by the way, was one of the quotes she posted. I don't know what's wrong with her. I believe, from what I've researched, that she is a malignant narcissist. Perhaps some other mental issues at play here, but I can say she was a terrible person long before she decided to try and make our lives miserable. Crazy beauty queen turned stalker. I would love nothing more than to never meet her again, but if going to court helps she stay away from us forever, then bring it. As an aside, I wanted to mention that we heard from a reliable source that after my husband broke up with her, she allegedly became known to police for other reasons. While my husband dodged a bullet regarding her threats to go to the police saying he abused her, apparently other men have not been so lucky. Since I can't post pictures, I'll leave you with one of her posts. One that may not make much sense, but to us, it was a statement to let us know she enjoys this drawn-out court process. Many of her posts are in her native language, so this is translated. Violent women, and the cruelest, never answer questions. They like to continue the misunderstanding indefinitely, so I seek to contact people only in order to torment them. My cruelty is my last attachment to the world, and my last chic. Then there are some of the relevant comments to this one before we get on to the update. First of all, a deleted user says, "So I'm nosy and wanted to see who she was, so I googled ex-beauty queen stalker, and literally 4 different women have come up so far from pageants. What the hell is wrong with these people? That must have been an absolute hell. Hopefully your family finds peace, and that psycho goes to jail for what she's done to you and your family. Stay safe, OP." OP replies, "I doubt she'll go to jail, but we are hoping for some sort of punishment. She just doesn't seem to think the law applies to her. Our fear is that the restraining order is lifted one day and she'll go right back to bothering us. It's taken a lot of time and effort to get her to stay away from us." User Abyss747 says, "This would make a good based on a true story type thriller movie, but I can't imagine the hell of having to actually live it. It sounds like you guys have done a good job of keeping your family safe and getting police to pay attention, but it's so unfair you should have to live your lives in fear because of one psychotic woman. It sounds like she needs to be committed to a mental institution for a long vacation. I don't know the process in your country, but in my state, if someone poses a threat to themselves and others, they can be involuntarily committed to a psych ward for evaluation." OP replies, "I do know it sounds very Lifetime movie of the week, LOL. Thanks. I think we've done all we can to protect ourselves. It's nice to come on Reddit and read all these supportive comments." And then there are a couple of commenters who think they've found the person. Oddbite7447 says, "It's the one blonde Canadian Russian chick, right?" And then I Need Space says, "I think I found her. Try googling beauty queen arrested for harassment, and she's the tall blonde." Now this kind of more reminded me of Baby Reindeer, the Netflix show, than a thriller movie. Although I don't think that Martha from Baby Reindeer was ever a beauty queen. And I don't really want to get into the whole Fiona Harvey drama on this channel. I really find these kinds of stories very disturbing because I actually had a stalker a couple of years ago. Not for my YouTube persona, which Natalie X Hunter is a pen name, so it wasn't somebody stalking me because of my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, this is my second channel, and my main channel's all about anime and has been up for about 4 years. But this was someone I'd previously worked with who was harassing me and a couple of my friends. And it did end up in a court case where he got a suspended sentence, and it wasn't his first offence. There are just some people who are kind of predisposed to this kind of behaviour, and from research I've done on the matter, it seems like it's not really a mental condition that people tend to get better from. It tends to be more in the field of personality disorders than mental illnesses. So that's great. But I don't want to go into my own story too much here. I was just mentioning it to say that this kind of story is one that it may sound implausible to a lot of people, but when you've experienced it or someone you know has, there really are people like this and they are this insane. It's not just in the movies. But now there's an update which came 3 years later, as in very, very recently, in August of 2024, which is when I'm recording this. So, she begins. "Hi everyone. I posted about my family's experience with my husband's crazy beauty queen ex. It's been a few years now. I wasn't going to post an update because I wanted to let sleeping ex-beauty queen stalkers lie, but I still get a ton of messages asking how things are going. I figured why not? We feel more protected now that it's over. Thank you again for all your kindness and support." To recap, my husband dated a beauty queen of a well-known pageant before we met. Once we started dating, she went nuclear, and it felt like we were living straight out of a Stephen King novel. It was a scary and stressful time, to say the least. I'm sure it would give her great satisfaction to know she affected our lives in such a negative way. Let me start off by saying the court process is long. It took years for resolution. During that time, she had to live with an assurer. For those who don't know, because I certainly didn't, the assurer has to front up the bail money, which was over $1,000 but under $5,000 in her case, and have the defendant live with them while they're out on bail. Her initial assurer was her mother, but after she was rearrested for continuing to harass us, the judge said that she had to have a new assurer since she kept breaking the law under her mother's watch. Since COVID, everything is done via Zoom and a virtual courtroom. There have been a few court dates during the past few years, but only her lawyer was present. These court sessions were basically asking to defer, etc. It was all very long and drawn out. The last court date was last August of 2023. I was curious as to what she looked like now, and to have this finally behind us. Finally, she appeared in the virtual courtroom. She was no longer wearing the wig. It looked like she had some real hair. It was short, brown, and pinned straight. She was the same weight as I'd last seen her in person, and she was wearing a long white coat, almost like a lab coat, no makeup. She was scattered, couldn't get her Zoom to work, wouldn't come into focus in the meeting, even though the judge repeatedly asked her to be visible during the proceedings. But she didn't listen to him. She kept going out of sight. She had the San Francisco Bridge as her Zoom background. Anyway, it was a gong show. But in the end, the result of this last court session was that she didn't plead guilty or not guilty. Instead, she was able to agree to certain terms or risk being arrested again. To be honest, I found it slightly confusing, but at least it was officially over. The most interesting part for us was after the virtual court proceedings were finished, the judge told us we could switch off our cameras. We did, but she didn't. So my husband and I watched fascinated as the judge presided over other virtual cases, and she, on mute, sat on a chair and called someone on her phone. She began crying, then laughing hysterically, then crying again, but looking into the camera as she's doing this. I couldn't tell if this was accidental or not. Was she trying to gain some sympathy, or was it an honest mistake? We will never know. Lastly, I add this with a huge caveat that it's pure speculation. I'd mentioned in my original post how she posted pictures of her dog's crap with my name beside it. However, when my friend looked through the pictures, she observed that no way could poop that size come from such a tiny dog. And when I look at it, I couldn't help but agree. But my brain refuses to process. If that's true, then ew. However, this will also be something we'll never know. Probably for the best. Either way, karma has caught up with her big time. We know from one of the bail variation requests she lives in subsidised housing. I haven't seen her in person, since the original court date back in February of 2020. I received quite a few messages from people who knew who this was and said they'd had run-ins with her, specifically a person who claimed a family member had been scammed out of money by her. That's all there is to tell. Our lives have moved on, and I'm happy to report that no news is good news. I'll always be extremely cautious about my social media settings, but I don't think about her anymore, unless I get a request for an update, etc. Thank you again for your messages and all the support, and to the crazy ex-beauty queen stalker, we are thrilled to never meet again. And there's a relevant comment posted by Potential Mushroom 9 who says, "Thank you so much for the update. I remember when you first posted this. I would Google her from time to time to see if there were any new developments. Your story really stuck with me, and I'm so glad that your family is doing well and you're safe." And I think that last comment pretty much sums up how anybody would be feeling after reading through or listening to all of this story. This poor couple have been through so much because of this crazy woman. And like I said, from having experienced this kind of thing, not quite to this extreme a level, I guess, but it does really make you think about how just someone you know or somebody you attempt to be friendly towards can just decide that they're gonna devote all of their energy to making you feel anxious, frightened, miserable. And that choice of theirs, based on whatever kind of issues they have mentally that cause someone to want to do that, you are then just thrown into a situation where you have to deal with the consequences and deal with changing your life to try and accommodate the fact that they're constantly trying to harass you. It can end up putting a lot of pressure on your own relationships, and it's really a very unpleasant situation to be in. And I really think that the sentencing for these kind of people is too light, because they don't really seem to rehabilitate. They just seem to move on to a different target. And while the upheaval they cause is massive, it's also the kind of thing that's very difficult to necessarily pin to a certain crime or to, get anything done about by the police or in court. As we can see from this story, it took a very long time. And the things that are supposed to give you peace of mind, like, sending someone a cease and desist or even getting a restraining order against them, are not necessarily things that these people will observe. But what do you guys think about this story? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching or listening today. Please let me know what you think about today's stories in the comments, and I hope to see you again next time.